Alright, guys. I wasn't originally gonna do another recording until Green... Well, I don't even know where Green Ethan is. He hasn't been around for a few days now. But, yeah, I wasn't originally planning to do another recording until he got back. Or he came back, but... There's something that I really need to get off my chest and that I really need to vent about. And hopefully doing this video will help me feel better then in the hopefully near future when I'm able to premiere this, you know, I can look back on this video and listen and be like, yep. That's true after all. And hopefully you, especially Green Ethan, you too can get a better understanding of me based on the current situation that's been going on. Now, I'm probably not going to make this video completely a rant. I may talk about some positivity as well, but I'm going to start with a bit of a vent. Alright, so you guys may be familiar that in some of my previous videos in the past, I have vented about the possibility of my brother's friends coming over, you know, Curtis, Clayton, you know, the like. Well, unfortunately, this time it has been happening. And it may not seem like a big deal to you guys, but I'll talk about why it's upsetting. I'll talk about why it has been upsetting to me. He's asleep right now in the living room, so hopefully he won't hear this video. And he should be gone, you know, he should be back. And, you know, wherever he came from by the time I release this. So, plus I still have my video from Tuesday to release. I'm going to release that first. Then maybe, hopefully, the night after that, I'll release this one. But yeah, I mean, yeah. You see, guys, you may not relate unless you are also on the autism spectrum, or in other words, neurodivergent, but I get really, really upset when my routine gets thrown off or like an inconvenience happens. And, you know, that's one of the main reasons why I'm upset about this whole situation. I may have talked about it in my previous videos, but just in case I haven't, well, there you go. Okay, so Ethan already has it, so yeah, I'm gonna keep the woolly one, I think it's called. But yeah. Now, if he was just over for like, I don't know, like a couple of hours, and, you know, he was spending the night at a hotel, you know, I wouldn't be as frustrated at it by this whole situation, but I would still feel upset for another reason that I will be getting into. But yeah, that's the main one. Like I said, especially when, you know, because... Okay, good. In the last episode, Eva was failing miserably at getting equipment. Like, she tried to buy it at least like 3 times, but she failed all 3 times. It was fucking annoying as hell, but she finally got something. I mean, she's not going to be a main teammate, so in the long run, it may not do much, but, we still have a ways to go before the quote-unquote final battle with the darkest, or the darker lord. I think the darkest lord refers to the main body, which will be me, you, Green Ethan, Mikhail, and Taru, but yeah, you know what I mean, the darker lord, so I want to at least get her strong enough for that. Ooh, nice. Good. Oh, fuck you. Check on team. No! Oh, actually, I'll put me battle horse just in case. We can, I'll use the remaining tickets, and if we get Jolly John, then I'll give it to me so I can get some money. Alright. But yeah. It's annoying having someone sleep in the living room. I feel like I can't go in there and, do anything. I feel like I'm trapped in my room. So, that's that's a pet peeve of mine. And the other reason, you might be aware of this, Green Ethan. Ah, fuck. But, it just makes me feel left out and envious. Green Ethan, you are aware that, about how I feel left out when it comes to people discussing hanging out with friends, It's not just you, Just in case you were wondering, don't worry. It's not just you, This is a general issue. I'm still in a spot where I'm not able to do that right now, so it is a bit upsetting with me when I hear about other people doing it. And it makes me feel left out. When people I don't want to say brag, but you know what I mean. Brag's a strong, that's not really the right word, but, it kind of does feel like it when, or just when people talk about, getting together with friends, in person, It makes me feel left out. Like I said, Green Ethan, don't worry. I know you are aware of that, but it's not just when it comes to you talking about it. It's a general thing. So in case you've ever wondered or worried, please don't worry, It's a general thing, It's not a you issue, It's a general issue. So yeah, in case you were ever wondering, don't worry. It's a general thing. So yeah, that's another that's the other main reason why it upsets me so much. 'Cause, that's just who I am. That's just what I am, I get left out very easily. Once I start getting into my programs and I start making local friends, and hell, I'm actually friends with Curtis's sister. Hopefully I can get together with her later on down the road. And then, local friends too, once I get into my programs, maybe get a little job, cause, I'll talk talk about that later, but, I think I already discussed it a little bit in Tuesday's video, but, yeah. Once I get to that point, and and I get to be around, peers again, and I, make some like-minded friends, in the town I actually live in now, and, I'll get to hopefully hang out with them on a reasonable basis, It won't be an issue anymore. Well, at least the left out part, if my brother has friends coming over here, that's annoying. No one wants company to spend the night. Hell, I get a bit unnerved just my grandparents coming over for, lunch. I mean, I enjoy it, that's not nearly as frustrating, but it can be a bit nerve-wracking, because my Nana can be uptight, and I'm worried about being forced into religious rigmarole, which, that could be a future rant. Green Ethan, I know you did a rant on religion in one of your Miitopia videos. I might do my own rant in a future Miitopia episode. But yeah, the left out part, that won't be an issue anymore, but I mean, yeah, but the spending the night, dealing with people spending the night, that's gonna be frustrating as hell. No matter what happens in my life. This is one of the reasons why I really want, deep down, I secretly want my brother to get his own place. Once he, later on down the road, once he gets, a job and stuff. That way he can have friends over and, I don't have to get involved in the inconvenience. I mean, I'm sorry if I sound selfish, but, if you're like me, having company over can be frustrating as hell. It can disrupt your routine. It can, disrupt your comfort zone. Oh my god, I don't know. It's Anton, but with an M. Ha! I tricked you. It's Manton, not Anton. Ha ha ha. But yeah. And obviously me too, I can't wait to eventually get my own place. There are so many reasons why I Hold on. Okay, good. There are so many reasons why I'm looking forward to eventually getting my own place. Not having to deal with company is one of them. Now, if it's my own friends, staying over, that's a different story. I mean, a bit hypocritical, but I'm sure you can understand why that would be, or feel different, My brother can do that without having to inconvenience me, And I can, do my own thing without having to, without worrying about inconveniencing him and my dad. Because, that happens too. Well, not so much my brother, but my dad gets annoyed easily when I do certain stuff. Mostly when I'm trying to leave my room for when I need to leave my room for a split second and my TV will be running, he'll get a bit annoyed with me. And then it's patience. I'm just getting something to eat or something to drink, or I just need to go to the bathroom, Come the fuck on. You know what I mean? But yeah. I won't have to worry about that anymore. And I'll save this rant when I have to worry about it. Next time I have to worry about it, but... You know, another reason is not having to deal with dogs. Because, you know... Green Ethan, you know, I've talked about time with you time and time... In these videos time and time again lately that... And even like a few years ago before... the situation with my grandma's dog started, you know, my dad and my brother have talked about getting their own dog eventually. And, you know, they've been talking about doing it. But now that, you know, they've had to watch my grandparents' dog, you know, they haven't really thought too much about getting their own dog, but yet. But, you know, they have talked about doing so. No, we're not going to use horse unless there's snort. Yeah, okay, good, snort. Well, we could use horse whispering, but I don't want to drain all my MP. Yeah, see, I finished off the battle with just a snort. It would have just been a waste. But yeah. You know, that makes me curious if my grandparents never started bringing their dog over here. I can't help but wonder if my dad and I would have like our own dog or his own dog yet, because they have talked about it on and off for these past few years, even before and after Zach. But, you know, they don't want to do it while he's still here because it could cause problems, you know. They could fight and it could just cause a disaster, so... Yeah, but unfortunately, they have been also they have been like kind of lately talking about doing it once Zach passes away. But once I get my own place, you know, I won't have to worry about that. You know, I can set my own boundaries when it comes to company. You know, I don't have to deal with pets if I don't want to. You know. Because that's the shitty thing about living with family. I mean, I get it, you know, living on your own can be rough, and I still have a way to go until I am able to do that, but... Let's just use Cure. It won't do anything, but I don't really know what else to do with you. Especially because it's a boss, you know. I can only do a basic attack. And it would be okay for, like, you know, certain enemies. But for moles and for paintings, I like to avoid basic attacks. Because the moles can dodge, and then they can get distracted, like dumbasses, by the painting, so... Yeah. I usually just have her do something else. Once we unlock Aura, it'll be easier. Because I can just rely on Aura. And I will do Righteous Anger. I will. I just rather save it for more powerful enemies. Because otherwise, it just feels kind of a waste. Because it still uses MP even when it doesn't work. So, yeah. I'm only going to be attempting to use it for, like, powerful enemies. Like, you know, when we get into, you know, deep into Krakatana, because those blue Minotaurs will be pretty powerful at first. So, so that will be an example, and then, you know, of course, there's the Replica Dark Lord in the Galados Isle. And of course, the infamous Red Fiend and the Tower of Despair. I'll try to use Righteous Anger on, like, those enemies, but if it's just an enemy that we can easily defeat, like, with normal attacks and skills, then I'm just gonna do it that way. Because it's really unsatisfying using your Righteous Anger and wasting MP only for it to not work, so, yeah. I won't be using it for the time being. But yeah, it... Like I said, I'll be able to set my own boundaries. Especially when it comes to company. Now, I don't mind having company, but number one, it's gonna be within, like, certain limitations. Like, if like, one of my family members wants to come over, fine, but they're gonna let me know in advance, and they're not gonna do anything stupid. Because, I'm not worried about my brother and my dad doing anything stupid. But, my mom, she's the most complex family member out of all my family members. So I'm definitely going to be pretty weary about letting her come over to my future place. My dad talks about... I don't even, like, why is he talking about it? It's morbid, but my dad keeps talking about, like him inheriting my grandma, his mom's house, his mom's house, his mom and stepdad's house when they passed away, and yeah, it does seem nice being able to swim. Whenever the hell I want, that will definitely be a plus, but eventually I do want to look into getting my own place, so I don't have to worry about certain shit anymore. Unwanted company, dogs, nonsense like that. Okay, I think that's all of them. And, like, the way my dad, like, talks, he doesn't think my brother will venture out and, like, live separately from us until my, grandparent. I don't even want to mention it, but... And it's like, come on, don't wait for a tragedy, Go ahead and venture out, You can set your own boundaries. You can do your own thing without inconveniencing. Well, I would say my dad, but he's in on a lot of this stuff, so I'll just say inconveniencing me. Again, not to sound selfish, but... my dad and my brother are, like, very like-minded, They both are chill with, my brother's friends coming over here and spending the night, They are both chill with, like, dogs and stuff. But I just want to be in my own little, place, my own little bubble, where I can set my own rules and boundaries and cultivate my own ideal environment. So yeah, I really hope my brother does eventually get his own place. That way I don't have to worry about him bringing his friends over. Because in Tuesday's video, I was actually talking about another one of his friends coming over. Not Curtis, but, Clayton. I was venting about that briefly. But it turns out, Curtis is coming over. Or, not coming over. He came over. And yeah, I'm sure he's a nice enough guy, but, still. I mean, he seems nice enough, but it's just, you know what I mean, frustrating for the reasons I mentioned. Wow, we're actually gonna be done with next door pretty soon. Nice, thank you, Sandy. I think it's funny how her name is Sandy and next door is very, well, Sandy. Ha 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 ha. We're gonna defeat the Pharaoh soon. We're gonna defeat the Pharaoh soon. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. I probably should have done some grinding off screen before doing this, but my mind is just in a weird spot right now, so I decided to just go straight into recording. I'll do grinding next time when my mind isn't so jumbled up. But hopefully, I don't know how long Curtis is staying here. My dad just said he was spending only the night, so hopefully that's the case. But yeah, and then another reason why I'm looking forward to getting my own place. This actually relates to a rant I did in a previous episode, but it'll hopefully be easier for me to get out of taking vacations against my will. Because I've almost had to go on a couple of, really long ones, way out of my comfort zone. And I would stress myself out to death thinking about them, and it'll be nice not having to stress about it anymore. Please smack me into, not this coming Tuesday, but next Tuesday, because that's when I should be getting my ID card in the mail. Which, I talked about that in the last video. I'll probably go back to talking about that after I am done with my little rant here. But yeah, that's another reason why I'm looking forward to getting my own place. Hopefully it'll be easier to get out of not having, I won't have to worry about my dad planning on forcing me to do stuff against my will. Because there was a time where he almost forced me to go to Virginia. There was a time where he forced me to, almost forced me to go to California. Luckily, neither of the trips have happened yet. He still plans on going to California. I want absolutely nothing to do with it. Fuck that shit. Oh my god, screw you. Ah! Okay, good, that worked at least. But yeah, hopefully my dad will let me hang out with, like, if I do make any friends on my program, hopefully he will let me hang out with them. They don't even have to come over here. If anything, I rather go out and do stuff with friends rather than just coming over here, you know. It gets me away from, you know, you know, it's better, like, you know, I prefer to, you know, it's not, you know, I feel the same way about, you know, both my brother and his friends and me and my friends, you know. I rather us do stuff out of the house, because not only will we not have to worry about inconveniencing others, but it's just more fun, you know, actually going out and doing stuff. So, you know, I love my dad, but, you know, he's kind of disrespecting, you know, a bit disrespectful about my boundaries. He doesn't think we should spend the night, like, even at family members' houses yet. He thinks it's okay for, like, other people to spend the night, and it's, like, double standard much. So, yeah. And, you know, that's one example. The other example of him being inconsiderate about my boundaries is, ooh, okay. Hold on. Hold your horses. No pun intended. We're gonna do something. But yeah, another example, like I mentioned, of him of him being a bit disrespectful about my boundaries is, you know, he can be, you know, he can be forceful when it comes to taking vacations. Even, like, if it's, like, a vacation that's half-assed across the country. Now, I'm willing, you know, I'm open to, you know, compromising. I don't mind taking a vacation a few hours, you know, to spend time with family. You know, even South Padre Island, you know, that took 12 hours, you know, that was okay, but I'd rather not go half-assed across the country. The only state I feel comfortable traveling to is New Mexico, because it's only, you know, I live pretty out west of Texas, and, you know, New Mexico is west of Texas, so that's really the only... Oh, nice! That's really the only... Oh, fuck! I don't have enough MP sprinkles. Aww. Fine, we'll just use the mounted attack. Oh, alright. Nice. But yeah, like I said, I'm willing to compromise when it comes to taking vacations. You know, like I said, New Mexico is my exception for traveling out of state. Usually I wouldn't do it because it's just too overwhelming, but New Mexico's only a few hours away. We might still plan to go over there later this summer. I'm not sure. And, you know, I mean, I rather, like, not take vacations at all, but at least it's not overwhelmingly long, which is the main thing I dread about vacations. But yeah, that's... Is Shauna in a bad mood? Yeah, I kind of am in a stressed out mood. In real life. But that's why I'm doing this. It's helping me to kind of get this out. Helping me feel a little bit better. Like I said, I wasn't originally gonna do any videos, but due to the DMV, the second DPS appointment going well, and the shit that happened, well, technically yesterday now, and it made me want to do these videos. So yeah, if Green Ethan is still gone wherever, I'll I'll probably, most days I won't do videos, or recording for premieres, but if something happens that's worth me discussing about, then I'll do a video that, that day or the day after, whatever. But yeah, we still have quite a bit of time left. We might actually get to Realm of the Fae in this episode. But yeah, I can't wait to get my own place. I'll be able to cultivate... I don't know the word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Cultivate, create, whatever, my ideal lifestyle without people getting in the way. Yeah, I can't wait. But the good news is, like I said, I talked about it in Tuesday's video, but, it feels, even though it's kind of hard to really think about it and smile because of how stressed out I've been feeling due to yesterday's situation, but it feels really good to finally, I mean, I don't officially have it yet, but, but it feels good to finally actually wait on it officially coming, because it'll come in the mail, some states may be different, but or even towns or cities. But for me, me and my dad have to wait a couple of weeks until we get our his new driver's license and my ID. But it does feel fucking good to finally wait on it. Well, wait on it to come in the mail. 'Cause you guys have noticed, I've barely been able to give updates in my videos. besides some doctor's appointments. Because we were originally going to do guardianship, because it would make things easier. It would make it easier for me to get my ID. But we just couldn't do it. We've tried for like 2 years, we've literally a year or two we've tried to get guardianship, but it just never panned out. So my dad finally said, fuck it, we'll try to get your ID without the whole guardianship. And yeah, the initial appointment didn't pan out, unfortunately. Because we just didn't, we just didn't have enough documentations. Hell, even my dad, even he didn't have enough. So it wasn't just me, we both had to wait an additional 2 weeks to come back for a second appointment. But luckily that one worked out, because when my dad came home from the initial one, he found some stuff to use, to take over there. Because, as most of you know, that's how it works when you're going into the DMV or the DPS. You have to bring them, some documentation items to prove your identity. We brought the first time we brought my birth certificate and, a bill from my dentist, because I had a dentist appointment the week before our initial DPS appointment. Yeah, this month's been a crazy month, if you couldn't tell. If you guys couldn't tell, on June 5th I had my dentist appointment. June 12th was the first DPS appointment, and then June 24th was the follow-up, I guess you could call it. But, for our first one, we, like I said, we brought my birth certificate and then a bill from, my dentist. And unfortunately, the bill didn't work out, But, like I said, my dad, when we got home, my dad, found some more documentation for us to take over our follow-up. We took my school ID, we took, my school record, I believe it was called. And then we took my vaccination, my COVID shot record. I don't have an actual shot record on hand, but we had my COVID one at least. And, so we took those things, and lo and behold, it worked. My dad also had to ask, it almost didn't work out, because, the lady we got was asking my dad for, I forgot what it was, but it was a deed for his truck, because he got a new truck last year in July. So yeah, so she was asking for that, and then my dad panicked, so he had to go back to his truck. And luckily he had it, And if he didn't have it, there was a chance where we'd have to come back a third time. So, Jesus Christ. That was smart of him to keep it in there. But yeah, I'm so happy that second appointment worked out. Now we can finally move on. Because like I said, things have been stagnant for years. Like I said, I did have a few doctor's appointments, but they didn't really do any good because the whole guardianship never panned out. So, yeah, things have been stagnant forever, and, I've been meaning to get my ID for years, but like I said, it just didn't work out because, my dad barely had enough stuff to take over there until July 24th, where we finally decided to take another chance after the initial appointment. So, yes. But yeah. But by the time this video is premiered, who knows? I may have already gotten my ID in the mail. It just depends how long Ethan is gone for and how long it takes to come in the mail, but yeah. Oh god, quiz biatch. No, fuck off. Okay, I thought of something just now, but Ethan, how would you feel about me changing Taru into King Ollie? That way we can both have our we'll just say favorite characters. Because I know you feel more attached to King Ollie right now. I mean, I'll still keep the job and the personality. I mean, yeah, the personality and the job. But I may consider turning Taru into Ollie. Since I know you feel more attached to King Ollie than Taru right now, but like I said, I don't want to change around the personality and the job because I think the energetic personality is useful and I need a cleric. So, yeah, let me know once I release this. Let me know what you think, and I'll do it if you want. Like I said, I'll still keep him an energetic cleric, which might seem new to you, but just something that just popped into my head. But yeah, I'm excited for July. Because once I officially get my ID, then I'll really feel good. And I'll definitely eventually release a video where I talk about, where I'll mention that. Because, not too long after we get my ID in the mail, then my dad said we're going to get started on my social security stuff. Now, I'm a bit skeptical about how that will go because, I looked into it, and they're pretty strict about eligibility for Social Security, and I heard one of the requirements was, having some work history, which I do not have. So, yeah, I'm a bit skeptical about that, but if doctor's appointments will help, so be it. I've never been a fan of doctor's appointments, but if they help us to continue push on, then so be it. And of course, in my bank account, hopefully that's not too far away either. Now that my ID should be coming in the mail in the next week and a half to 2 weeks. Alright. It seems like something Manton. Okay, yeah. Seems like something he would. Ugh. Damn. But yeah, like I said, hopefully my bank account is not too far around the corner. But, the good news is my dad still has another month off of work. I think he'll go back to work on, he has his follow-up orthopedic appointment, which, don't get me started on that crazy-ass place, but yeah, he has his follow-up orthopedic appointment on July 30th. I'm not sure what day of the week that falls on, but I think he goes back to work the following Monday. Because, he does, it would be weird going back to work, in the middle of the week, he would prefer to just wait until the following Monday. Though, going back to work during the middle of the week doesn't sound that bad because it's a short week and then you already have a couple of days off. But at the same time, that can seem a bit weird to do that. Some people prefer to go back, at the beginning of the week, like, a Monday, in his case. But yup, princess job should be right around the corner. I'm kind of in a tizzy right now because I accidentally unplugged my speakers, so I can barely hear anything. I need to maybe help my dad help me to get them plugged in eventually. We'll see. But yeah, my dad's off of work right now, because he's still on short-term disability while his hip recovers. But the good news is this gives him a lot more time to go ahead and get some of this stuff done, because work can get in the way, so I mean, it sucks how he had to deal with leg pain and how he had to get surgery, but at the same time, it's kind of nice how it worked out, him getting like a few months off, which gives us time to get this stuff done. Because that was another factor, he was really busy with work, and that set us back a lot as well. Alright, princess job time, baby. Woo! Sorry if that was too loud. But yep, princess job time. We are now in our main job. Like I said, I can't really hear it too well because my speakers kind of came undone, but I can still kind of hear it. But I love that music. This music, the music that you get when people are like missing their faces, and Manor Macabre, probably my 3 favorite themes. Well, I don't know, it's hard to choose because I also love, you know, the Eldest Fab Fairy theme. It's hard to choose my, you know, top 3. But, you know, this music, Manor Macabre, the Eldest Fab Fairy, you know, the Trouble in Town, it's called. You know, some of my favorite Miitopia themes. I also like it when, I don't know if it's considered a theme, but I also love the Realm of the Fae music when you're like, when it's like your turn and then like, you know, it's hard to explain, but I'll show it off when we get into our next battle, because we're gonna be in Realm of the Fae now. Another good news is my dad is doing spaghetti. I mean, not spaghetti, sausage and steak. We haven't done it in a while because of his teeth. So I finally get to eat sausage after a few months, because we used to do it all the time, but you know, he's very limited on what he eats. So because he only has his front teeth, you know. He had to get his back teeth pulled out for his hip surgery. Okay, here we go. Hold on. This music is what I was referring to, where you're in Realm of the Fae and it's currently like a controllable party member's turn. It kind of goes like this. I can't really mimic it, but you know, I don't know. There's just something about it that I would like. It's hard to explain. But yeah, my dad's been limited, having to limit himself on what he can eat due to only having his front teeth right now. Once he gets partials, he'll be able to eat a lot more. And the good news is, you know, despite the inconvenience, you know, there are a few good things that still happened. You know, we went to La Bodega and I had a yummy lunch. And then we went to Sam's and we picked out some awesome snacks. So, you know, that's good at least. But with all due respect, I am looking forward to Curtis going home. Or going back to wherever. So veins can go back to normal. Because I do have a bit of a low tolerance when my groove or my routine is thrown off, which, like I said, is one of the reasons why I don't like it when company stays over. But I mean, if they're only over for like a couple of hours, that's fine. But if they're spending the night, yeah, it can fuck things over. All right. Oh, okay. So Purple Ethan, Orkia, and Mikhail. Oh yeah, we're gonna make Purple Ethan a cat, cause oh my god, they are OPAF. Plus, he likes cats. Him and Ashton love cats so much. So, yep. Another good thing about doing these on the computer instead of on the TV is, I can record these whenever, you know. It was rare for me, like back before I got my screen recording, and my mic set up earlier this year. I mostly just recorded at nighttime. It was rare for me to record during the day because, my TV is in front of my window, and then you can see like the sunlight, and it could be disruptive. But now I can record whenever I want, because right now it's 6:42 a.m. And the sun is coming up, so yep, we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I can't wait until, like I said, in the next week and a half to 2 weeks. Because that's when my dad will get his renewed driver's license, and I'll finally get my ID officially. And we can finally move on to other stuff, like Social Security, doctor's appointments, bank account. Because once I get a bank, as we get closer and closer to me getting my bank account, I'll feel a lot more motivated to really focus on my writing projects. I don't know if I mentioned this in my previous, in Tuesday's episode, but, I thought about it, and I think my book about autism will be a good debut book, because it's the main book I feel comfortable sharing with people, telling people, hey, I'm planning on writing a book about this. For a while, I was leaning towards planning on having my debut book to be about self-shipping, but self-shipping is a bit of a taboo topic, so I rather focus on building a good reputation before I start focusing on taboo topics. So I still want it to be a priority, but it just won't be my debut book, you know what I mean? So, yeah. I think my book, my autism related book will be a better fit for a debut book. Because I was actually, deciding, but which one to publish first. For a while, my self-shipping one or my autism one, and for a while I was leaning towards my self-shipping one, but Now that I've thought more about it, I think my autism one would be a better idea for a debut. Especially because I often feel like disconnected, and that kind of can explain my current, yesterday's and technically today's situation. I feel disconnected, even from my own family. They're very chill when it comes to company, and it makes me uncomfortable. And, my dad doesn't really care about my boundaries. I mean, I know he tries his best. He is a good guy deep down, he's a good father deep down, but he still just does not get it, he doesn't get me. He doesn't get, just how having autism spectrum disorder can, both him and, especially my mom. I'm gonna save that. Hold on. We're gonna keep this going for a little bit longer. Actually, you know what? We'll go on some outings. And there's another outing ticket, or yeah, for horsing around that I'll save for Mikhail. Yeah, see, I was thrown off at first because it doesn't tell you that you've unlocked horse whispering. So I used to think that it just didn't give it to you, or even if you were able to control the party members, caused confusion. Oh God. Oh, okay. Better than the stupid gray area. I guess we'll go on an outing with Ethan. Purple Ethan. Then I'll do one more battle, then I'll end it off. But yeah, my family are not inherently bad people, They just don't understand what it's like to be on the spectrum anyway. So yeah, I think that will be a good debut book. Because even with all the awareness and all the books that currently exist, we still have a long way to go. So I'm going to try to touch upon topics that a lot of people just tend to miss. Because, there's a lot of, very well-known things about autism, like sensory issues and then, poor social skills. Those are some of the main things associated with autism, but there's also a lot of overlooked stuff too, such as how it can be linked to mental illness and even suicide. It can be linked to emotional dysregulation. There's a lot of stuff associated with autism that most people just do not know, that most people are just not aware of. So I'm hoping I can cover a lot of ground with this autism book that people somehow just have not been able to do yet. I'm going to save the royal roast for Mikhail. spaghetti, yummy. Oh, come on, you love spaghetti. I love spaghetti. Probably my favorite meal in terms of home-cooked meals. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to choose because, like, it depends how something is cooked. Like, if my dad actually, like, deep fries some french fries or some hash browns, like, if he makes homemade french fries or homemade hash browns, oh my god. It is so fucking good. Like, a few days ago, he cooked us, like, breakfast for lunch. And he had two, like, potatoes that we still needed to get rid of, so he decided to make some hash browns with those. Oh my god, it was so fucking good. So yeah, it's hard, like, in terms of home-cooked meals, it's hard to choose between french fries, hash browns, and spaghetti, but those are the main ones. Even burgers, a grilled, I mean, it depends how it's done, but sometimes even a grilled burger just isn't as good as those aforementioned foods I mentioned. But yeah, I cannot freaking wait to. It's gonna feel so good once I get my bank account and once I figure out publishing. I can pour. It's gonna feel so good to pour my heart out on the page. You know. I feel like I don't know about my dad, but my mom has a I don't have to explain myself attitude, or you don't have, or like a you don't have to explain yourself attitude. And I get it to some extent, You shouldn't explain things to people that you don't feel comfortable sharing, but at the same time, sometimes it's good to explain yourself. It can be therapeutic, and it can help people to get a better understanding of you. So, yeah, I'm more of the belief of, I think it's good to explain yourself. Within reason, of course, You don't have to, like, don't share anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to do that, but I will definitely be sharing a lot of my personal experiences when it comes to my experience with autism spectrum disorder. Because, knowledge, general knowledge can do wonders, but it's also good to, just, talk about your personal experiences as well. Really pour your heart out. So, yep. Oh, nice. We both leveled up. Finally, Royal Wave. Good. I don't have to rely on basic attacks. But yeah, and another thing too is, this will actually be a topic I address in another book, because I plan to write a book about parental guidance as well. But you know how, like, when your parents tell you to do something or tell you not to do something, or tell you that something is right or tell you that something is wrong, and then, their child is like, why? And then the parent is like, because I said so. I never really, I'm sorry if I sound entitled or childish, but I never really liked that answer. A lot of parents just feel a bit entitled. I feel like not all parents, don't worry, but I'm not saying all parents are like this, but some parents, may act entitled, and then they feel like they can demand obedience from their child without like a proper exclamation, without giving them a proper exclamation, and I think it's harmful. It's important to explain to your child why you have certain expectations in place. Why you feel something is right or why you feel something is wrong. It's important for you to teach your child that. And they're not going to learn that by you just being like, oh, because I said so. So yeah, I don't really agree with the mindset of, oh, I don't owe you an exclamation, or you shouldn't have to owe them an exclamation. I get it. It would be easier for people to just understand each other without it, but at the same time, it is a crucial part of helping the world to become a better understanding place, and it is crucial for raising children that know right from wrong. So, yep. That will definitely be a topic I cover in my parental guidance book, in terms of, parents using it to their children. But yep, we are an hour and 17 minutes now, guys, so I think this will be a good place to end it. I'm not sure when my next Miitopia episode will be. Probably when something happens that I can talk about. So we'll see what that is. Later. Bye.